How's it going, guys? Welcome to the show. Welcome back. It's been a while. It feels like it's been a long time. I've been away. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. Guys, I'm just looking at your chat right now. So this time I can see you guys. Normally I say I can't see, but I can see you now on here. I'm just looking at Sparky. Quiet on the set. Please quiet. Get ready for the one. Thank you, Sparky. Thanks. That's nice. That's pretty funny. So anyways, yeah, I feel like I'm really behind on my video watching and everything. I'm behind with all you guys because we were away about a week, 2 weeks ago. We got back from Florida, so it was a great time. We went down to Florida, Orlando area. We went on a nice cruise with Carnival Cruise Company through the Bahamas. It was totally amazing. It was such a great time. And then when we got back, Mel's family, my wife's family, they rented a house in Davenport, just outside of Orlando, and we all split on the house and had a really good time there. Went to Disney World, did some shopping. It was really cool. So a few things I've got up here, the Instagram and Facebook. I wanted to tell you guys about that. Like my Instagram, if you want to see some of my behind the scenes modeling and stuff, a good place is Instagram. I don't update it a lot, but once in a while you'll see pictures on there. And Facebook, so I got a lot of people coming on my personal Facebook, and that's great. But if you I believe it's Boxcar Benny at Creative Rails Facebook, that's an actual page for this show, and some of my modeling's on there as well. So if you're a fan of Facebook, you could do that. So let's get rid of this stuff here, and let's go into the chat room and see what you guys are saying. So Southern 207, James, how you doing? Hey Wilmer, hey Sparky, hey David Atkins, nice to see you on here. Thanks for coming. Hey Nora, Stu Structures. Stu, I'm a big fan of yours. I think you've been on here before, but man, that build you're doing, man, I've been following along on that. That is insane. Joshua Williams, I don't think I've ever seen you. Nice to see you on here. Welcome. It's good to see you guys. So a couple other things. I don't know if you guys caught it. Wilmer and I were on Who's Big Bill Talking To last week, and it was too bad Tony and Tom couldn't make it on the show. Tom had some things going on because he's driving the truck and everything, but Tony was supposed to come on, but he had some technical difficulties right at the last minute, so it was pretty upsetting that he couldn't come on, because I know you guys have all seen Wilmer and I a few times. You're probably getting bored of us, so it would have been cool to have him. But anyways, I was a little disappointed that he couldn't come on. Just a couple things I wanted to touch base on with that show. A couple things I was talking about and Wilmer was talking about. I felt bad I didn't get to mention about Tom Pilling. I said, how, I came up kind of the idea of having a live stream, and then talked about how Wilmer came up with the name of the show. But what I didn't mention and didn't get a chance to really bring it up was Tom Pilling came up with the logo, and I felt really bad that I didn't get a chance to mention that. Tom and I went back and forth. He drove me pretty crazy, to be honest. It was pretty funny, but it was worth it in the end. I really like the logo we have. The one I'm talking about is with the little man there. He came up with that. Another thing I wanted to say, I know I've said this before and I didn't get a chance because we're talking about Wilmer's show. If you guys are watching right now, you are watching me because of Wilmer, and that's something I didn't get a chance to bring it up, but I know I've said it before, but Wilmer found me when I had 14 followers. 14. I don't know how in the world he found my video. It was actually in my coupler video on HO scale couplers, and he said, "Hi, I'm Wilmer. You'll be hearing from me soon," and he plugged me on his channel, and the rest is history. So thanks again, Wilmer. I appreciate you so much, and yeah, I wanted to mention that on the show, and I didn't get a chance to really bring it up. So Joshua, this is your first time on my... Yeah, I figured it was. I believe you are new on here, and so what I'm going to say, that's actually going to bring me into my next point. We're going to go right into the shout out section, because something really cool happened that I'm sure you guys know about. When I was down in Florida, something really cool happened. So I didn't have really good service on my cell phone, so once in a while I'd check in. So we were driving to Cocoa Beach the one day, my daughter and my sister-in-law and, you know, the niece and nephew, and I just happened to go out, get some good service, and went on my phone, and I'm getting all these updates on YouTube. Kind of weird. I'm getting all these new followers, like a lot. So I said, this is weird. I'm getting all these followers on here. So a little backstory. This was so cool. It means so much to me because if you look back to when Sparky originally brought up Steamtown, he was talking on there about how, you know, he announced it, you know, come to Steamtown, blah, blah, blah. You can meet all these people, these cool people on YouTube. And if you go back, you will see I commented to Sparky, one person who I would love to meet. Now, there's lots of people I want to meet. Trust me, I want to meet all of yous. But the one person, one of my heroes, somebody that I've watched for a long time and really looked up to, Roy Smith. And I full-heartedly mean that. I've watched Roy for a long time, and I've been a big fan for a long time. Look on there and kind of get an idea of what was going on. Roy shouted out Creative Rails on his show, which was huge. So it boosted my followers big time. It was just really cool. And something else, I'm going to talk about this on the next mail call shoutouts and updates as well. But there was a really cool home theater. So what we did when we got back to the house, I went into the home theater and put Roy on the home theater on the big screen and got to see him do that in Florida. So it was pretty neat that he did that. So just a big thank you, Roy. It's the Union Pacific Evanston subdivision. You guys, I'm sure, all know him, but that really meant a lot that you did that, Roy. I couldn't believe that. You know, to do that from a big fan, that was really, really, really cool. Something else Roy has been doing, he shouted out Wilmer, and he also shouted out Redbird Tony. So he's really pushing on Track Tuesday, which really means a lot to us. So thank you so much, Roy. It is so awesome that you did that for us. So what else do I got to? I think that's pretty well it. What we're going to talk about, sorry guys, what we're going to talk about here tonight is the trains that rolled in and out of Owen Sound, the real trains, and how we're going to bring that into the OS CNR subdivision, my layout. So I guess what I'll do, I know I plug Ian all the time, but here he is again. If you haven't got a chance to go on his website, I know I've been plugging, I think the last 3 shows I've been plugging him, but Ian Wilson, all this information is out of this book from the timetable that he has in there. And then in the back, there's even more information. The cars that ran, the engines that ran, it's insane. Now I also have, if you guys remember, I did a video on displaying some of your memorabilia and antiques. And in there I have the actual timetable from 57 from the subdivision in there, but I didn't want to dig it out. Basically, I have double checked it. The information that Ian has in this book and his timetable is the same, and it checks out. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go, I'm going to show you guys the timetable and kind of how it worked, and it should be pretty cool. So before we do that, we will take Ian off of here, and I'm just going to go back in the chat before we jump into the show section. So John Dilly, oh Roy, you made it on. Well, I'm so glad you made it in here and you got to see that. I really mean it. It meant so much, Roy. And like I said, I'm a huge fan, and I'm really excited to meet you at Steamtown. So John Dilly, it's good to see you. I think I just said that. Sparky saying, hello at John Dilly. Great announcement. Video this morning, sir. Will be nice to see you. John, you're going to Steamtown? Is that what that means? I'm assuming that's what that means. John Dilly himself, another person I would love to meet, because John Dilly was one of the first. After he might have even been on with me before Wilmer. He was one. I remember John was one of the very first. So John Dilly, he was one of the very first shoutouts I did because of that. Way back. Canadian Railroader, welcome. Okay, I'll have to check out your comment. Hey Gaffa. Good to see ya. Gaffa's somebody else too. Gaffa's been doing a lot of the, I was talking about this on Big Bill's show. He does a lot of the, he's doing a lot of the live interview stuff. Well, not interview, it's more like a hangout. It's a lot of fun if you guys get a chance to do that. He does that with Toyman a lot. So I'm sure you guys all know who Gaffa is. Hey Mike Pfeiffer, welcome. Well, it's good to see you guys all in here. I really appreciate it. I guess before we get into it, I guess you guys are wanting a layout update. And the funny thing is, there really hasn't been anything done. Like, I was gonna say a little bit done, but not really. The only thing we really did, we had a family cleanup night. Because the basement was a disaster. So where you guys left off when you saw the layout announcement, you know, live stream, when I made all those videos, the basement was just a mess. There was drywall everywhere, drywall dust, studs everywhere. It was a disaster, wire. So we got it all cleaned up. It's all presentable now. So now what I'm gonna do, I'll probably release the video that you guys saw of, you know, that funny video of me putting in the lights and stuff, like kind of the coming soon video. And then we will do, from then I'm going to start the actual layout update videos, and I'm going to start with the construction because there's still construction to do that you're going to see. So it's all presentable now, you'll be able to see it, and we will go from there. So as you can see, scroll, give Gaffa the night off because he's the one that's always asking everybody to like and subscribe. That's really nice. Hi Robert Sacco's on there. So I think what we will do, we'll just jump right into it. Why not, right? So here we are in the show section as usual, and I've made you guys something that's kind of cool. Just a little timetable. There she is there. So first things first, I guess one thing to know about Owen Sound is there was not a crew that stayed over in Owen Sound. There was not an Owen Sound crew to switch their local industries. Basically, trains would come up from Palmerston and the crews would stay over, and then they would switch assignments. So basically the first thing that would happen in the morning, bright and early, you'd go to you'd be actually staying either in the caboose or in the roundhouse. I showed you guys there was a bunkhouse beside the roundhouse that they would stay in. That was horrible apparently to stay in. But what they'd have to do, get the engine out, get it all fired up, everything would have to be cleaned, ashes dumped, coal in, water in, get her over to the main track and get ready for 5:50 a.m. for the 172, which was a passenger train. And the cool thing about these passenger trains is there was not really a whole lot to them. Out of Owen Sound, pretty well always, a passenger train would look just like this. Normally just two cars, a baggage and a coach. And you know, things would change sometimes. Sometimes they would use boxcars for baggage as well, but normally that's what it looked like. And then what would happen, they would end up down the line, Parkhead, they would pick up a car, you know. This train didn't. The one that I'm going to show you later on did. But basically, just two cars. Normally that's all they were. And I'll show you guys again, because I realized I had the small screen on there. That's what they look like. So that's a Rapido baggage car, and that's an Atlas paired windowed heavyweight. So I've been collecting these for a while. So like I said, I say all the time, it never ends. Like, yeah, I haven't had a layout in about 10 years, but I'm always buying stuff on eBay and going crazy. Okay, so 5:50 a.m. we got to get number 172. So that's a pure passenger train. Off she goes. So next thing that happened was a crew would come out, and it could be, a lot of the times it'd be the mogul they would use, but you know, basically moguls, 10-wheelers, and Pacifics. So the crew would come out. First thing they would have to do is switch the CPR interchange, which I told you guys about before. That was where that bridge was. So basically they'd bring CPR cars off that bridge, bring them down to the grain elevators, do CP's work. Then they'd go back, switch William Kennedy and Sons, and switch RCA plant, and they'd switch they would switch the freight sheds, and then they would have to get the engine ready for the next train. And the next train was the mixed 340. Now I should have wrote mixed on there, but 340 was mixed. And the mixed train ran to Wyerton. And this train was basically a turn. So, like I said, that same crew, they'd get up in the morning, they'd do all their work around the yard, then they'd hop on and take that same engine and run out to Wyerton. And the mixed train really would just look like this. So this is something I acquired off of, I believe I got it off eBay, I can't remember. But this is a Baltimore, Ohio. And it's a combine, and it looks very much like the CN. What I was going for was the 4 windows here on the baggage door. So this is eventually going to get stripped and repainted. So I'll probably film that. I don't know, we'll see. But anyways, a mix would generally look something like this. Basically, very simple. You'd have the engine at the front, and then you'd have, you know, a boxcar on there, and maybe a couple other things for Wyerton. So they'd run out to Wyerton, do their work, and come back eventually, but you'll see that later. So, the next train, now, this isn't necessarily, I'm pretty sure it was either 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. This is around the time the way freight would be expected to depart. So the way freight was expected to work all the way from Owen Sound to Palmerston, and they would stop at all those towns that I was telling you about. They would stop in, you know, Shallow Lake, Parkhead, Tara, Chesley, and off they would go south and working their way. Now at the same time, about the same time, the northbound would leave Palmerston, and it would arrive later in Owen Sound, as you'll see. Now, something I didn't mention here, this is just arrival and departures in Owen Sound. I thought it'd be the most simple way to put it. So this is arriving and departing from Owen Sound. I didn't want to show you the full timetable because it can look kind of confusing. So the way freight, as you guys know, it would be just a mix-up of cars. So you'd have, you know, you could have some stock cars, you could have some box cars, and then of course, something I wanted to show you guys is this old Junico kit. I did this in my early 20s. So that's an old Junico kit that I did. So that's made out of wood, and you actually had to cut the wood out and put in the windows and everything, and it's a little rough. It needs some TLC. The lanterns have fallen off, and there's ladders missing on the front. But it's too bad Junico's gone now. So remember, I told you guys I picked up one of these, which I'm going to be working on. People were just walking by them, but they mean a lot to me because, like I said, you can't get them anymore. This is kind of nostalgic. So anyways, yeah, and on the front of the way freight, you'd have normally moguls, and apparently in my year, a lightweight Pacific ran the way freight quite a bit. So let's go back. We have left off with the way freight. It's got to depart at 11 a.m. So as you can see, all these engines have stayed over in Owen Sound in the roundhouse, and if there was only 3 stalls, so if they ran out of room, one would have to stay outside, or even 2. Next up, we have the 174 come in. Now, this is a cool train. Same idea as I was telling you guys before. It would just be, by the time it got into Owen Sound, it would only be, you know, probably about 2 cars. So baggage, and something else to point out is the baggage would be full of express and less than carload stuff. They would throw in those baggage cars as well. So they would come in, switch those. Cool thing about 174, it originated in Hamilton. And so it'd wind its way up from Hamilton, eventually get into Palmerston, and then off to Owen Sound. And what would happen is it would drop off a car normally in it would pick up a car in Parkhead that the mixed would drop off for it. So that's a switching thing I was talking about earlier, about switching that happened at Parkhead at that Y. It'll be pretty cool to have the passenger cars do some switching, because that's something I've never done or seen, is passenger train switching. So it should be pretty cool to simulate. And by the way, this is all going to be done on the layout. So I'm showing you, this is the real schedule. This real schedule's really happening on the layout. So after the 174, there is a meet, and this is the 173. So sorry, yeah, the 174 goes out, 173 is coming in. Now, the thing to know is the trains going out of Owen Sound, so the trains going south, they were the first class. They had clearance over everybody, so 174 was priority. So I could never figure out why. There's a lot of pictures of 173 and 174 meeting in Shallow Lake. That's where they would meet a lot to go by each other. Well, the reason is 174 would always have to leave on time. The reason being, think about it, when you're going up north to Owen Sound, not a big deal if you're on time. But when you're going south, well, you're connecting with Hamilton, London, Toronto, big cities, big trains, big things going on. So that train had to be on time. So I'm figuring that's why. If 173 was late, they would call ahead and tell them to meet in Shallow Lake or Parkhead or wherever they'd have to meet. So it's a good, kind of a cool thing to know that the southbound trains had priority. So we'll go back. So that's 173. So basically 173 and 174, very similar trains, normally a Pacific pulling them. And they originated and ended up in big cities. So right here I put the way freight to arrive in Owen Sound. This is the way freight coming from Palmerston. So something important here to remember is the way freight is not a turn. The way freights are separate trains. So like I said earlier, a way freight would leave Owen Sound in the morning, and at the same time the way freight would leave Palmerston, and they would meet somewhere. So that's something that would have to happen as well. Now the straight trip from Palmerston to Owen Sound, according to the timetable, is about 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's why I put 2 p.m. It doesn't matter what time it gets to Owen Sound because it has work to do on the way. Now we're going to talk about that probably in next month's show. I'm going to show you the paperwork and how it runs and everything, but that's how this is all orchestrated, and that's where these meets happen and what the paperwork is for. These trains have to meet somewhere because they're not really following a schedule. Basically, to put it in layman's terms, when you're doing timetable based operations, is if something has a higher class than you, get out of the way. That's basically it. It's that simple. If there's a train coming at you or behind you, and it's higher class than you, get out of the way. That's it. Take the siding and get out of the way in time for it, right? So that's something cool to talk about, and you'll be seeing that on future shows. So we have the way freight coming in about 2 p.m., but it would probably come in later than that. And then at 3:39, or sorry, at 3:20 p.m., you have the mixed 339 coming back from Wyerton. Now that train is a turn. That's the one I was showing you earlier. So basically it leaves as the 340 and comes back as a 339. And a lot of the times it would pick up a car and do, like I said earlier, it would pick up a car off the 174, 173 in Parkhead and come into Owen Sound and do that. But it was also a mix. So yeah, it would have freight cars. Big thing in Wyerton before this time was fish. So a big point of that meet in Parkhead was, excuse me, Wyerton was big for exporting whitefish. And what happened was they would want to get whitefish to Toronto by that night. So that's why this meet was originally so important, because they would bring out reefers of whitefish, meet in Parkhead, and then the 174 would pick those up and bring them to Toronto. Well, they wouldn't bring them directly to Toronto. I'm sure there was a switch somewhere. But anyways, that's how that worked, and that was the entire point of that. So then at night, really late at 11:10 p.m. Came number 175. And so 175 would come in. Again, passenger train, it would come in. It's kind of cool because it was at night, so that's why I'm doing the night scene. The night scene is going to be really big on the railroad. Excuse me. So basically, that train would come in. It would get turned, coal, water, dump the ashes, and then put the bed. And something else that was cool about that roundhouse was they would hook up the steam lines, and off the steam engine, they'd hook up the steam lines, and they would hook into a radiator, and that's how they heated the bunkhouse and the turntable. So it was pretty cool. So the 175 would lay over that night, and then it would go out. That engine would normally go out in the morning again as the 172. Or if not, it could go as the 174. So it's kind of neat. You can see how the engines would get switched around and moved around. And that's why I need so many steam engines. Hence why I'm scratch building, because I can't afford to buy all these in brass. So I'm just going to go into your comments for a second here. So Stu, I thought you would, when I saw you, I thought you'd find this interesting, because I've seen your channel and what you do. Your research is amazing. So Roy is saying, one of the most enjoyable parts of model railroading is researching the prototype and then trying to apply the results of that research on our layouts. Absolutely, Roy, and I'm so excited about it. And something I talk about a lot is armchair modeling. You did a show on that, and that's what I've been doing a lot of. I spend a lot of time doing research and looking for pictures, because I'm also going to be, as I said, scratch building a lot of these buildings and trying to make them look as realistic as I can. Jack said, always remember, if a train is going up high elevation, they priority because of the time to go up compared to going down. This is mainly to stay on time due to elevation. I hope it makes sense. Jack, and that you've brought up a good point too, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute about going uphill. But you're right, and actually going out of Owen Sound was uphill because of the Niagara Escarpment, and that's, you guys probably don't want to hear about it but anyways, the Niagara Escarpment goes all the way from like down in the Niagara Falls all the way up, I believe, to Tobermory. It's a big part of it, and that's going to be modeled. I'm going to paint that on my backdrop, have we call it the West Rocks up there. So another funny thing about that, the Niagara Escarpment going out of Owen Sound, sometimes I get confused, because actually when you leave Owen Sound, you're actually going north. And same with the CP side, those trains are going north. So the southbound train actually leaves northbound. And the reason for this is when they initially brought the railways into Owen Sound, they had to get down the Niagara Escarpment. So it winds way out and down and around and into Owen Sound. So sometimes I get confused, but that's cool that you said that, Jack. But the main purpose, 100%, the southbound guys had priority because they had so many meets to make. They had to meet mainly in Palmerston, and then from there the big terminals were Stratford, London, Hamilton, Toronto, so had to keep that all going. So Sparky wrote, love the history and what he wants to apply to his layout. Doing operations at creative place, I want to run the Whitefish train. Get out of my So the funny thing is, I wasn't planning on doing the Whitefish because that got phased out, Sparky, but maybe I will. Why not, right? We'll do the modeler's license and we'll bring some reefers into Wyerton. And Wyerton's the part on the layout, if you guys remember. It's just staging in by the furnace. It's in the furnace room. So basically that you just go in, bring the train into staging, and then basically come off, get the other train that's sitting there off the other track and bring it back, and then do a little bit of switching in Palmerston. Nora said, very cool, Betty. As Sparky wrote, was Owen Sound the end of the line for the CNR? Yes, it was, Sparky. And it's funny that you say that, and it's something I was going to say before I started this, was Owen Sound. When I was young and people would see my layout at my dad's in the basement, they would always ask, why don't you model Owen Sound? Why don't you model Owen Sound? And something that I always said was, well, there's no point. It's the end of the line. I've never even seen a train there. I've only seen one train. Nothing ever happens. Well, a little bit of research. Ian Wilson's book comes out. Man, oh man. Look at, we're already up to, well, I'll count it after, but we're already up to a crazy amount of trains that went into there. And this is just the CNR side. The CPR side, I'm barely even modeling. I'm just doing a little tidbit of that. But it was really, really busy. The other cool thing about Owen Sound is it included street running and it included double headers, which I couldn't believe when I read that. And that's going to bring us into our next trains that 100% had double headers, was the grain extras. So what would happen, especially in the fall, and of course that's what I'm going to model, is the fall. The grain elevators put out thousands and thousands and thousands of cars of grain. And so what would happen is they would make a call to Palmerston. I just read it earlier, actually. They would make a call to Palmerston. Normally, they'd want it to leave 9 a.m. from Palmerston, get up to Owen Sound. So that was basically a turn. They'd come up, normally double-headed, but not always. They'd come up, switch the grain elevators, do all their stuff in there, and then head back again. But those grain cars, they were just box cars, so just something like this. This is what a grain extra looked like. It'll just be a bunch of Canadian National box cars. They were super heavy. So what they would have to do is back the train all the way down over that interchange bridge that I was telling you about, do a little street running down that alleyway, and then full throttle, double header, full throttle to get up that grade of the Niagara Escarpment I was telling you about. And normally, I believe Ben Allen is where I was showing you on the last show on that lift out section. That's basically where the double header would come off, the engine would cut off and go back to Owen Sound. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff that I never expected to see. So anyways, normally at this time fall there would be at least one grain extra and sometimes even two. So I don't know if you guys remember, a while back I did a show on using the cell phone and the tablet to generate trains. I'm gonna do this for the grain extra as well. So on this railroad, on the OS CNR, on my layout, the grain extra will 100% run. But will it be one or two? So that's what I'll do. Are we gonna run one grain extra or two grain extras? And put it in, one or two, and that's how we will do that. Apparently the other grain extra, if they did run the second one, it ran at night and it would come into Owen Sound normally after the 175. So it would be in around, I believe, around 11:30ish, 11:30 p.m., something like that, and then it would do its work and then head out that night, from what I understand. So those were, the grain extras were turns. So, with that being said, small town. Won't sound what I said, nothing happened there, right? And even, it was funny, Tom Pilling made that comment on, I believe it was Vinny's live stream the one day. He made a comment about Ben's hometown, how nothing happened there, and I was glad he did that because I knew this would be pretty cool to show you guys. But here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 9, with a second grain extra, 10 trains, 100% real, in history, absolutely happened, 100%. It's there, documented. 10 trains, for real. Unbelievable. I can't believe it. 10 trains. My trains, I'm hoping to get 10 cars, but at this point, just from the plans and everything, it might be, just because steam engines are a little longer with the tender and everything, it might be around 8 cars, but we'll see how it goes. Depends on how everything, how big the sidings are and what's running and if that passed. And that'd be kind of something cool for the dispatcher, kind of leave that open. That's an idea I just came up right now. Hey, you could call it in and say, hey, we got 10 cars coming. Can you fit it? Can you get it by? You know what I mean? Would it work? So, just looking at you guys. Thanks, Gaffa Gaffa, saying smash that like button. So, Stu, is Grafton your hometown? Thunder from Down Under. What's that, Redbird Tony? Well, you're talking about Gaffa, I think. Hey, Big Tony, we'll put the hit. I'm just reading your guys' comments. Sorry, excuse me for 1 sec. You guys are funny. Thanks, Sparky. I definitely do have a passion, and that's kind of how, when I started this YouTube channel, I kind of wanted it to do it this way, just to kind of show you guys, like, how did I become a model railroader, right? That was the first live stream, and then just go from there and build on it. So you guys are growing with me. It's really cool and really exciting that you guys are with me on this. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. We did that. Go uphill, shove back to the flat spot. Then we had the 20 car length hill we throw. That's awesome, Jack. Lose it in the middle of the hill, so we had to get an assistant. I've built up a whole wall of B&O references. It is addicting as modeling to me. It is, Stu. And you know what's funny, Stu? I thought I did a video on here on my antiques, like this and paperwork. And I thought that video would do so well, and it didn't. It was funny. I was really disappointed because it's something I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about. You know, like everybody talks about, you know, the model trains and everything. But the antiques, that market, as far as I'm concerned, where I am, it's still at the same spot. Like this light back in the 90s, like when I got this, it was like 200, 250 bucks. You can still get them for that. Whereas now, like, these cars are insane. Like this Rapido, these used to be $50. They're now like $80. So it's something, if you guys are interested, you know, check it out. I did a video on that on antiques. But basically just go on Facebook Marketplace. Kijiji's a really good place. I've bought some really good stuff on. So it's just something to think about. Anyways, I'm getting kind of off subject here. Oh, Stu just announced he's going to be on Big Bill Show on the 27th. That'll be awesome. I'm really excited. I'm going to tune in for that. It'll be really cool to see you on there. William said, thanks, Benny. It's fun to learn as you go into this. Thanks, William. Thanks, Gaffa. Oh, Stu, you did watch that. Well, thanks for watching that. That's cool. Yeah, I would love to see your stuff. That'd be really cool. I think it's just something that people, you know, aren't used to. Maybe. So Redbird, it's expensive in your area, and that's something I found. It's funny. I found a lot of Canadian memorabilia on eBay in the States, And I don't know why it was down there. Like my timetable, that original 1957 timetable came from the States. I don't know why somebody would have that down there, but I got it for dirt. I got it for 20 bucks. So check out eBay too, Redbird or Tony, and just watch the shipping. You got to be really careful with eBay and the shipping now. It's brutal. But I got it shipped for a really good price. Sometimes I find if you message the people, because I do buy a lot of stuff on eBay, sometimes I'll message them and say, hey, you know, can you ship this for cheaper, or can you help me out here? And normally they'll help you out. But it's, so you just got to watch it, because you can get really burned on the shipping. So let's get back. I got way off topic. Sorry guys, I got yapping there. So we got the schedule. Like I said, we've got 9 trains easy, 10 if you do the second grain extra. But what if we need more? And this is something that I've thought about for a while. And I have, Sparky did a really good video. He did a review the other day on a Jordan spreader. And I've been looking at Jordan spreaders. I've been actually looking at the kit. I've been looking at that one that Sparky has. But that brings me into extras. Kind of fill in the gaps, right? Because this is a big day, and when it comes to the railroad, I don't know how exactly I'm gonna do this, because in an operating session, even with the fast clock, this is a long day, so I might have to compress it and fill it in. We'll see how it goes, but I would like to get, because I have that automation happening in the morning and the sunset, I would like to have a full day for like say a 3-hour operating session. But anyways, if it's not too busy, what I was thinking about doing was adding some extras. And this is where I'm kind of, you know, I would say I'm prototype, but loose prototype, not quite proto Lance, but I don't know, somewhere in between. But the extras is where it's going to change up. So I have a few things that I've bought that I wanted to use for extras, just to give you guys an idea. So I've got all these old Proto 2000 CNR auto cars. And they're the old 50-foots. They're not the super long ones. They're 50-foots. This is the only time I would run 50-foot box cars on my railroad. But the idea is, there's in the 50s, a lot of dealerships got built up on the west side, and then there's a lot of small towns around. So let's say these dealerships did a bulk order and got some cars brought in. So that's going to be an extra that comes into Owen Sound, a little auto train, not a big one, but just a few auto cars, or a few auto box cars. Something else I was thinking of, I bought a depressed flat car with a transformer on. I think Bachman made it. You guys have probably seen it. It has a transformer on top. That was an idea around this time in the 50s sometimes. It was when Pittsburgh Glass went in on the east side, on the CP side. And that's something too. I have the interchange. So that's a spot where I can bring in all kinds of things, kind of like a team track. So not only am I going to have the CPR grain cars coming in another, I can have tank cars going to the fuel suppliers, like I said, coal cars can go over there, anything can go over there. There's a stove factory over there, there's all kinds of stuff. But up on the east hill of Owen Sound was a newer factory called Pittsburgh Glass, PPG, and the idea is this year PPG is being built, and this big huge transformer has been ordered from the States, and it's made its way up through, and it's got a few idler cars on it, and it's gonna go on the interchange, and that's where it will end. So just little things like that. I also have a plow I want to run. The idea there is we're in the fall, it's not winter. Well, how about training? You know, there could be a crew in there, a new crew that needs to train, and maybe that plow would lay over a little bit till the first snow. Didn't happen, as far as I know. The plows normally came out of Stratford, but it could, right? That's where I'm talking about this modeler's license. So that's another extra. So right now we're at 3 extras. Another extra was what Sparky was talking about, the Jordan spreader, which did happen. So what happened was they had a bunch of side dump gondolas. They would come in, and remember I showed you guys the picture of the crane that loaded the coal and unloaded the ash from the ash pit? That ash was taken and put into these side dump gondolas, and that was used for ballast. So there was an extra work train that was brought up and down the line that would spread ballast, which was really just ash. They would just take those cinders and spread them out. And likely they could have used a Jordan spreader. So I was thinking a Jordan spreader could come in and they would come in and then they'd grab those gondolas and pull those out. So what are we up to now? Like 5, something like that, extras. So I have a few more ideas. So the plan is for that. I should have put it on here, but that again, that train generating thing, which is just the number generator. Are we going to run extras? Yes or no? So that could be a 1 or 2, 0 or 1. I also have a thing that will do yes or no. Are we going to run an extra? Yes. How many? And I'm thinking it would be, if it says yes, 1 to 3. So then you put it in 1 to 3. How many? Let's say it says 3. Then you go from there. Then each extra would be numbered. So plow extra would be number 1, auto extra could be number 2, the transformer could be extra number 3, and that's how that would be generated and bring a little surprise into the operating session. So that I'm going to talk a little bit more about on the next month's show. I think I'm going to do next month's show. I'm going to show you guys the paperwork, how that all works, because as I was saying, I said it on Big Bill's show, I have actual models of the paperwork, like real way bills. I don't know if I have any, you know, I'm not going to dig them out right now. You'll see them later. You can see them a little bit on my desk where I show my antique workbench. I show them a little bit on there, but I'm going to show you guys how I came up with them. It was an idea from Trevor Marshall, a really good modeler. He's a writer for Railroad Model Craftsman, and he's now on MRH. But he left it at a certain point on his blog, and then I took it a little bit further and kind of came up with some ideas for it. So that's how I'm going to be running my trains. So it should be a pretty cool show. So let's get out of here. That's it for the trains. So like you said, we could have a potential of, if we did, let's say if you did have 3 extras going, you could have like 13 trains going in and out of Owen Sound. So it'll be pretty cool. Plus you also have the locals and stuff. Like there's local stuff that happens. So like I said, that engine before the mix goes out, it would have to switch. And then the engines that would come in off of the way freight and the engine that would come off the passenger trains, they'd be used for switching the local. That grain elevator was a beast, and it was always needing switching. So that 100% will be happening. And then the factories, of course, all around in the industries, and we've got to get coal to the crane and, you know, all kinds of things. So it should be a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to go into the chat because there was a few questions here. Here we go. Put up the chat room screen. Okay. Okay, so I've seen a little bit of stuff. So, okay, so Wilmer wrote, Benny, you got it in the States because we love the Canucks. That's awesome, Wilmer. That's funny. I don't know. There's a lot of Canadian stuff down there. It's pretty cool. Speaking of that, I know I've mentioned this before, but there was a lot of Canadian rail, like Canadian National and Canadian Pacific rail fans that were American. Most of the pictures in this book, that's what I was saying, in a lot of these books, most of these pictures are taken by Americans. It's really surprising when you look into the history of Ian Wilson and how he did it. He had to go to a lot of people in America. And the reason was steam ran longer here. Like 57, mostly steam. There's only a couple diesels that really ran. I'm going to run more diesels because I have them. But yeah, it's actually more prototypical to be more steam. And like I said, most of those pictures were from the States. Okay, Stu wrote, livestock trains back in steam days were good for extras also. That's so true, Stu. So livestock, and that's the funny thing because there is a lot of livestock on the layout. I've got a lot of pens and everything. I wasn't planning on making that an extra. I was hoping just the way freight could handle that traffic, but it's something with this, when it is so random, if they did build up, that could be totally an extra that would happen. That's kind of the beauty of this system. It's you're not set. You can kind of make it up as you go along, like just like the real thing. Hey, we got all these cars, they gotta go. Send something up here, you know, fill out the paperwork, get it all going, and boom, Bob's your uncle. James wrote, well, I got some insider information on potential inside of how to get a club back on track. Okay. I'm not sure what you're talking about, James, but no fast clock. Just run and have fun. I can never understand a fast clock when it's just a couple, 3 people. It's, to me, the fast clock just makes it fun, Sparky. Another thing too is the fast clock, like I said, controls a lot of the automation, but basically it doesn't have, especially on this, it's a quiet railroad. It's just a single line with passing sidings. Basically the fast clock, when you have to leave, you have to leave. So 5:50 a.m. I'll expect the engineer to be like, let's say for the 172, they have to leave at 5:50 a.m. Expect them, they'll have to come out, hostel the engine, get it ready, do the whole loading sequence, water in, coal in, all that, turntable, hook on. Then you have to do a brake test and everything, and then be ready to depart for 5:50 a.m. So that's really what the fast clock is for, is really to show you when to leave and when to show up for work, basically, and what you got to do. And like I said, in layman's terms, I find people make fast clocks and timetable operating very, very confusing, and very more difficult than what it really is. Really, all it is, if there's a superior train to you, get out of the way. Like, that's, and I know it's making it very simple, but that's really what it is. Get out of the way, take a siding, let that train go, and follow your orders. It's not as difficult as what people make it out to be. And then Sparky wrote, big clubs, even if trains, then yeah, fast clock. So, Stu wrote, most layouts don't really lend themselves up using fast clocks. You really need a big layout for them to be practical. And, okay, so, yeah, just what I was just saying. My layout, it's more of a medium size. It's not huge. At Scarborough Model Railroaders, when I was there, they tried a fast clock, and they didn't like it because it didn't work, because they're saying the way freights couldn't keep on time. Well, the way freight doesn't need to be on time. It doesn't need to be. Like I said, the way freight just needs to leave on time, but then it just needs to follow the timetable and be out of the way for the superior trains. It's, you can't time or guess how long a way freight's gonna take. You never know. It changed day to day. So I don't know why they had such a hard time with it. They could have used it. They could have used it for passenger trains. And they had a lot of through freights on there that they could have used it for, but anyways. David Atkins, only trying to fast clock a couple of times, took the fun out of it. Nobody likes the fast clock, I'm seeing. Okay, so this will be good. I'm gonna make the fast clock fun, okay, you guys? That's my plan now. We're gonna make the fast clock fun, okay? Because that's what it's supposed to be. Okay, Stu said, before the Jordan spreader, there was a thing called the Hedgerwood spreader. Anyone looking to model something unusual early on, look it up. I am gonna look it up. That sounds cool. Alright, I'm gonna keep going down here, guys. Okay, so Redbird Tony, you wrote, could you reproduce those for ops sessions, Benny's? Can you just elaborate on that, Tony? I don't know exactly what you were talking about there because I was yapping so much about fast clocks. Thank you, Stu. Thanks, Vinny. It's nice to see you on here. And something, Vinny, I gotta tell you, I ended up quitting hockey. It was taking up too much time, so I'm gonna be probably on your show more often now on Friday nights. It was just, I have too much going on with everything with the family and, you know, all my side stuff, so I'll be seeing you more. Thanks, Wilmer. Okay, Sparky asked, can you tell us where you got the lantern and why? Does it have any meaning for you? Yeah, that lantern, my dad bought that for me. I can't remember where he got it. I believe somewhere around Guelph, Sparky, at an antique shop. But yeah, I always loved lanterns. It kind of goes back to my grandfather and everything. He collected neat stuff. He also collected the insulators off of the telegraph thing, so I have a few of those. But yeah, Dad, I always told Dad I wanted one, and I don't know if it was, I think it was maybe for my birthday, he picked it up for me. I think he paid around $200, $250 for it, and I've had it ever since. This hung, see, this is actually an old switch stand lantern, but I put a thing here. It actually hung over my old my first layout at in my dad's basement. So I've had that for quite a few years. So yes, it means a lot to me, and I thought it'd just be cool to have there for the show to keep the train theme going. Thanks, Tony. Stu said there was a diesel stunt Canadian Pacific paint in Grafton not too long ago. Huh. Looking for the fast clock. Okay, so I'm gonna do a fast clock video. That's awesome. Yeah, somebody's got to make because I've heard nothing but bad things about the fast clock, and I've actually never operated with it. But just, you know, playing around with the JMRI, and I don't see why it's such a big deal. It doesn't need to be that big of a deal. Because I've seen some videos. There's a guy named called CNLVN, so a really good channel if you guys get a chance. He's a big channel, and he goes around the Ottawa area. And there's a fast clock guy on there. And that guy, he made it so complicated. Like, it was awesome, but they had, like, you have to be at this point by this time, and he was measuring out scale miles, and you had to go this speed to be at this point by... And mine's going to be so much more simple than that. It really is. It's like, be at this point at this time, and if you're not there, you let somebody know, and, you know, that order will get thrown ahead type thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be that crazy. Like I said, if there's a superior train coming at you at that time and you're not at that point, don't go to that point or that next stop. Stay where you are and let it pass. You know what I mean? Get out of the way. That's basically all it is. It's not that difficult. But I can see why people don't like it and find it difficult. It's because it's made to look difficult. It's like a lot of things I see in this hobby. That used to bug me, like especially when you read like Model Railroader and everything, you know, like back in the day, you had to use styrene for everything. I don't know if you guys remember that. Styrene was the big thing. Styrene streets, styrene sidewalks, styrene signs. Oh, you're gonna make a custom sign for your station? Let's mount it on some styrene. Well, you don't have to do that. I use cardstock to make signs. You know what I mean? So that's, I'm getting off topic again, but that's why I started Creative Rails, is to kind of lighten the load a little bit and, you know, make it a little more fun, especially this this operation stuff. Canadian Railroader, are you going to be buying Rapido Royal Hudson? No. I'm not. Canadian Railroader, I can't afford it. They're too expensive. I shouldn't say that. They're actually, I believe they're $600, which is actually a really good price. It's just, you know, there's so many other things to buy. I'm not going to do it. Something that I might buy, they have announced that they're going to do the 10-wheeler series. Now, I'm scratch building the CNR ones, but I might do the, I think it's a D10 CPR 10-wheeler. Might buy that. But that's a big thing with those Steam builds that I'm doing, is I'm trying to make it. Now, I haven't touched it I talked about this a long time ago, but I'm trying to make it that I can build 3 steam engines, brass quality, for the same price as one. Sound installed as well. Tsunami 2s. It's a little bit tight, but it's pretty close from the one that I've been working on already. I should be able to do it. 3 for the price of one Rapido 10-wheeler. So Rapido won't like that, but anyways. So you said Royal Hudson's. Sparky said Royal Hudson's are sold out. Are they not? I don't know, Sparky. I know one Rapido engine I wanted to buy was that SW1200 RS, and those are hard to find now. And I see them on eBay. I'm like, should I do it? Should I do it? And then I miss it. And so those are hard. They do go really fast. Wilmer wants a Royal Hudson. They do look beautiful, but at this point, there's no reason. Like, I used to be a collector like that, and I'd buy lots of stuff, but it would just end up, you know, I ended up with so much of it. I gotta really knock it off, and now what I'm doing is just focusing on what I need for the railroad, and it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of, like I said, I need a lot of steam engines and a lot of boxcars. Like, thankfully, I'm pretty well up on my boxcars, and I decided now I'm gonna redo my tank car fleet. It's crazy. Okay, Vinny, take care. I guess I better go too, guys. I went a little long there just chatting. But But thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys found that a little bit interesting. We will see you guys on the next one. We'll see you tomorrow night on Sparky's show at 7 p.m. And then Hot Rod Rodney, I think he's Thursday night. And then we have Vinny on Friday night. And then make sure you check into Gaffa and Toyman. And then you have Steve Brown Saturday morning. So lots of stuff to watch. So anyways, take care, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.